The first one won't kill you. Not the second. Not even the third. Not till you crawl over here and you kiss my foot.
This is the Blood and Black Rum Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum Podcast. I'm Ryan from Cultsploitation.com, and I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
Pretty good. We're back after our lengthy Halloween season, 8 episodes on the zombie films reanimated series, which was a fun time. Hopefully everybody had a good Halloween, safe Halloween. Try to stay off the streets as much as possible. I know my Halloween was not that great. I had to stay home and have like a family party, and normally I do trick-or-treating every year for, I scare kids when they come for trick-or-treat, and it was a little bit of a bummer, so I had to take an edible and and get through it that way. Very, very mild high for the Halloween night.
I mean, I had to sleep to get ready for work in the morning, so be up at 1:30.
Well.
Oh well.
Everybody has their issues on Halloween, I guess. But other than that, the season was pretty fun, and we had a good time. But we're back again now. We had been on a hiatus before we started our Halloween season, and we're back, even though coronavirus is at an all-time high. Probably,
No, it's
being
not.
a little lax now. But
No, it's not.
No, it's a myth. It's gone away after the election. Totally eradicated.
I had somebody at work say that it's coming from a meteorite.
Well, you know what? Maybe it is, like in Creepshow. We got this strange meteorite that fell from space, and gosh darn it, we got all this coronavirus now.
Yeah.
Even so.
I say that too. Like, I had someone too also be like, it's a strain of the flu. That's why it's like the flu. I'm like, no, it's a SARS virus.
Yeah.
What?
Totally
different. No, it's actually a strain of the SARS virus. Like,
completely different.
Yeah, different family.
Yeah. But we're being safe here on the show, and we're going to continue, hopefully, doing episodes throughout the rest of the time. We had planned, we want to do a Thanksgiving episode, but it's a little early for our Thanksgiving episodes, because we do episodes every 2 weeks, and the way that Thanksgiving is going to fall this time, we're going to do an episode in 2 weeks, and it's going to be like right before Thanksgiving. Technically, we should post it on Friday, but I'm going to post it early for Thanksgiving, so you can be listening to it instead of, talking at the table with your family members. Listen to the podcast. Say, whoa, hold on a second. I'm listening to Blood and Black Rum Podcast here.
Well, there's not going to be a good football game on.
That's right.
Because the Cowboys are garbage. Lions are garbage.
So you can just tell everybody, you know what? We got a Blood and Black Rum Podcast Thanksgiving episode, so...
we don't know exactly what to do yet, so...
I'm not sure what we're going to do yet. There's a few options. I'm not sure which one we're going to pick yet, but... So again, also, we hadn't picked tonight's episode until tonight, when we were getting ready to figure out what we're gonna do. So tonight's episode is not the Thanksgiving episode. That will be the next time. This episode, we had talked about doing while it was still the Halloween season, because... Unfortunately, we lost Sean Connery not too long ago, and we said, well, we should do a Sean Connery tribute. It's only fitting. We try to do some of those tributes when they come around. Unfortunately, most of the time that happens when people die. That's when you do the tribute. Except for Jeff Goldblum. We managed to get that one in before he kicked the bucket. He's going strong.
Listen, we well ahead on that curve.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the Paul Rudd train.
That's right.
We've been members of that since like 2001.
Yeah. So sometimes
trendsetters.
Sometimes we do tributes and they're not when people die. We'll go with that. This case though, Sean Connery did pass away. How old was he when he died?
90
years old. Good for him. You know what? Had a pretty good life.
Tired to the Bahamas. That's
Mm-hmm. So we decided that, with Sean Connery's passing, we want to do a Sean Connery film, and the ones that you normally think of are Bond films. I kind of deferred to Martin on this. Martin is a much bigger Bond fan than I am. I haven't really seen very many Bond films at all. I'm more of a Fu Manchu man. I like the films of Fu Manchu. No, I'm just kidding. But he's more of a Bond fan. And so I said, you know what, if you're going to pick a Bond film, you can pick it. Just make sure it's not super long. so we have time for it. But obviously, you had one in mind. You had already had one in mind when you were thinking of Sean Connery. And you picked
From Russia with Love.
From Russia with Love.
Widely considered by most people to be the best Bond film. Maybe not the most revered, like Goldfinger is, because Goldfinger's kind of got a special place in the zeitgeist for all the trends it would lead to down the road.
Mm-hmm. And, when a lot of these films were also riffed off of in other spy films, and then also in Austin Powers. Yeah. A lot of the ideas. And in Inspector Gadget, let's not leave Inspector Gadget out of there. Because Inspector Gadget's claw is basically Blofeld. Mm-hmm. So we can't leave that one out.
Same thing like Mission Impossible, Get Smart. They all got
they have those elements of the Bond films.
Lupin the Third.
And most of them are pulling from these Bonds, the Sean Connery Bonds, the ones that set things in motion. So From Russia with Love is the second in the Sean Connery Bond series, right?
Yes.
First one is Dr. No.
Yes.
And when we get into From Russia with Love, I'm immediately feeling a little left out. Because I hadn't seen Dr. No, and the events of From Russia with Love are picking up after Dr. No.
Which is, for those who don't really know much about Bond, there's not much continuity in Bond. So the fact that there's continuity from Dr. No to this one is surprising. But then again, that's because they haven't really found that right formula yet.
There's not a whole lot of continuity. The only thing is that you're not really introduced to anybody within Bond's circle. Yeah. So, everybody that's within his circle, like Q and M.
This is the first one with Q, and he's not. He's not
even introduced. He's just kind of This is Q. He's got your shit.
Not even. He's Q. They're just referring to Q Branch.
That's true.
They don't even say anything about like Q Branch made you, and then he's just here to show you that's what you got.
That is interesting that he wasn't in Dr. No, and then now all of a sudden he's just kind of there, and I guess it makes sense because in the world of Bond, if he's been working with Q previously, he doesn't need another introduction to him that just is for exposition purposes. Hey, Bond, you remember Q, right? Q, the guy who designs the equipment that you use, this guy? He's been, designing all of my equipment for the past missions, but sure, I know Q. So it makes sense. But yes, you're getting a little bit of that exposition that had happened previously. Obviously, there is even a mention of Dr. No when we're talking with the Spectre people and with Blofeld, talking about Dr. No. But other than that, there's not a whole lot of information that you really need to help you get into From Russia with Love. You have most of it is just set pieces for this movie, particularly, that they're setting up. So that's a good thing for people who are coming into Bond and not really knowing if you've never seen Bond films before.
I would also say, though, too, especially now, if I, as a Bond fan, were to introduce somebody to the franchise, as much as From Russia with Love is my favorite Bond film, and it is heralded as probably the best Bond film. For me, it's From Russia with Love's 1A, then On Her Majesty's Secret Service is 1B. But if I was to show somebody an initiate, get into the Bond franchise, I would not show From Russia with Love first, not at all.
Which one would you show?
Probably, especially now that it's been so, been long, now that the film's 60 years old almost. Mm-hmm. Probably Casino Royale, maybe GoldenEye. Kind of start newer and then work your way back. because I just think, as that film's getting older and older, if you're trying to get someone interested into James Bond, it's going to be harder to start with the first stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, like, for the first, Connery film, I'd say Goldfinger, but...
Yeah. That was my first one for classic Bond.
But,
Goldfinger.
I wouldn't say From Russia with Love. Because I think, though, as great of a film as it is, you have to have a certain taste and style when it comes to, like, spy thrillers.
Yeah.
When it comes to Bond, most of the Bond films I like, they're down to earth and more grittier.
Mm-hmm.
More realistic. From Russia with Love is like that. Casino Royale, is like that. Skyfall, is like that. The Living Daylights with Timothy Dalton, which a lot of people don't like, is like that. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is like that. Those are the ones I like. I don't like so Roger Moore to me is one of my least favorite James Bonds because his films outside of The Spy Who Loved Me and For Your Eyes Only are pretty campy.
Mm-hmm.
And, really jokey and shit.
I mean, Goldfinger falls into that as well. It's more of the campier
It does.
style.
From Goldfinger on, it ratchets it up. Thunderball is a little bit campier. Then You Only Live Twice is even a little bit more campier because that's when you get to meet Donald Pleasance as Blofeld and his volcano lair and all that.
Yeah, right.
It's all cool. Thunderball's cool too, but it's it gets just grow the scale and splendor just grow greater and greater and greater.
Yeah, they're getting a little bit more. I don't know. They're trying to be a little bit more eccentric in things that they're presenting, and it's not just about the whole spy element anymore. Yeah. They're getting bigger, grandiose.
Yeah,
in scale.
And that's why, after that, when Lazenby comes on Her Majesty's Secret Service is a reset back to basics.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very grounded, which makes it a great film,
mm-hmm.
in my eyes. One of the reasons that makes it a great film. But, so, if I were to, introduce somebody new to the Bond franchise, I would not start with From Russia with Love. GoldenEye, because for most people in our generation, GoldenEye is what got you into it because you got Pierce Brosnan.
You got the N64 game.
Got the N64 game that everybody loved. You got Famke Janssen, everyone's favorite femme fatale.
How can you go wrong with Famke? What film have we covered with Famke Janssen that we've not loved? The Faculty and Josh Hartnett's crazy hair and...
The spooge hair.
Yeah, exactly. You can't go wrong with Famke Janssen. All right, let's take a break real quick before we get into more information about From Russia with Love. And we'll talk about the beer that we've got on the show today since we're nearly done with the beer. So before we get any further into it and forget about what we're drinking, let's talk about it first. I don't have the music today. We have to move on from Zombies Ate My Neighbor.
You know what you should have done? You should have picked a classic GoldenEye level.
That's true. I could have done that. What my goal was to have was the Guts theme song. That's going to be our
new beer talk.
The beer talk theme song is Guts because I love it. It's so random and I love it.
I mean, I love it too. It makes me want to climb the aggro crag.
That's right. And you know
Guts!
What?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because I had been, I don't know what made me think about Guts 6 weeks ago when we were starting the podcast up again. But something made me think about Guts, and then I was thinking about,
I remember, yeah.
What's the guy's name? Mike, whatever his name is. Why can't Michael Malley. Michael Malley, sorry. Michael Malley was the host on Guts.
I see, I would not even fucking remember that.
Right, Michael Malley. Then he went on to be in The Lovable Oaf and Yes Dear. The CBS sitcom that ran for 7 or 8 seasons. And then, just the other day, I was thinking about him again, and he's in Snowpiercer, the TV show that's on TNT right now. He's in Snowpiercer. And I don't know why, but there's just this running Guts thing that keeps making me think about the show.
American Gladiator for kids.
It's awesome.
Another show that's dearly missed.
Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Guts is better than Legends of the Hidden Temple.
I don't know. I will say, and we're getting way off onto a tangent. We haven't even talked about the beer, but we're talking about Guts. I will say that I always kind of felt sometimes like Legends of the Hidden Temple was rigged.
Yeah.
like they would be like
just random like
I don't even remember what the prizes were at the end of it.
You win
like
they
get like Sega
that,
Genesis or something.
Yeah, no, all that shit like a Double Dare. It was all just like you get a bicycle, figure it out or whatever. But if you won like the grand prize, like you get to go to Universal Studios, and it's like you're already there. Yeah.
I can't remember what the grand prize was, but I always felt like sometimes the producers were like, just fuck this team in particular when they got to the end. Like the Blue Barracudas, fuck the Bear. We don't want the Blue Barracudas to win today.
Listen.
So like they would always rig the last puzzle.
Listen, the thing that you're missing out the most is the best game show of all time on Nickelodeon is Brain Surge.
I don't even remember Brain Surge.
Well, that's after us.
Yeah, I know.
Because Jeff Sutphin.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
From Mayfield.
That's what it's called. Doesn't even ring any bells to me that was the name of the game. But.
Local celebrity, Jeff Sutphin.
That's right.
From our hometown, Mayfield, New York.
We only have a few celebrities around our area. One's a porn star, one's Jeff Sutphin, and then one's Rachel True, who's in The Craft. She's from Northville.
That's not Mayfield, though.
But it's basically around it. It's around the same area.
By the way, last off-topic thing.
Okay.
Nostalgia's coming in quite hard for them 25 years later to come out with a Craft sequel.
The Craft Legacy. It's not really a sequel. It's sort of a remake, sort of not. I don't know what it is. I haven't watched it yet. I don't have internet, so I can't watch it. But
is it just like an Amazon movie or
what? Yeah. It's on Amazon. So you gotta.
One of these days we'll have to do The Craft.
Yeah, I like The Craft.
I like it a lot too.
Fun movie.
Do that in Cruel Intentions.
Yeah. All right, so on to the beer talk. Just think about the guts playing in the background, and that'll be on the next show. I promise I'll get it for the next show. But I don't have it right now. So what we're drinking today, we had I don't know. Did we talk about this last time we were on the show?
No.
Did we mention this at all?
No.
Obviously.
No, because
even before October was over, I was already moving on from Oktoberfest since I've been drinking Oktoberfest since August. So now I moved on to the winter beers in October.
Hey, wouldn't you know, it's been 70 all week up until today. You know?
And I got the Saranac pack because it looked actually particularly interesting this time. It's got a winter IPA. It's got winter warmer. It's got another...
the Big Moose Ale.
Yeah, it's got the Big Moose Ale, and it's got something else too, and I can't remember what that other beer is off the top of my head, but it's got some interesting ideas in it. So I wanted to check it out. And one of the new ones that they have is the Winter Warmer. Now, Saranac has done, I think, winter ales in the past. I don't know about... They don't really do a Winter Warmer. It's not like a normal style for them. So I was interested to try this out and see what their Winter Warmer was like. And wouldn't you know it, a Winter Warmer from Saranac really tastes like a Winter Warmer. Like what you would expect. It's not really... surprising. Ale brewed with spices.
I say, it's every winter warmer that you'll ever have during the season. It just says, an ale brewed with spices.
Yeah.
What kind of ale? I don't know.
But I will say that it's pretty tasty. For a winter warmer, it's kind of on the lower end of the alcohol content. 5.8%. It's kind of low. Because when you think of winter warmers... Which is good. Yeah, it is good.
Because usually you get, when it's too alcohol-y,
yeah,
it brings out the
figgy dried fruit flavors that you come to expect from like an old ale, because they're very similar. Winter warmers and old ales. You can think of an old ale as like we put this winter warmer into a bottle and we left it in the back room for a few months, and now we've got an old ale.
Makes you feel like you're fucking Tiny Tim in Christmas story, just like we saved up we figs and nuts for the season.
That's right. That's what they do. They just like, all right, we got all these old dried fruits from summer, throw them into a bottle and let them melt down. That's your old ale. Winter warmers are a little bit less on the like nutmeggy, figgy, dried fruit flavors. They still have those flavors to a certain extent, maybe a little raisiny, not too much though. It's not extremely strong. You do get some of those cinnamony, nutmeggy, I don't know, like snickerdoodly flavors that you can get from that you would expect from winter style herbs and spices. But I will say that I think that their winter warmer is pretty good. It's standard. I would say that if I swap this out for like someone else's winter warmer, I probably would be very difficult to tell the difference between them.
Very similar to like harpoons and...
Yep. So, you're on the right track. It's not a bad thing. It's just, it's a standard winter warmer. It's what you would expect when you think of winter warmers. So I would say that they did a good job with it. That style of brew is a particularly important style for the season. And I think they did a good job.
Yeah, it's not bad. I think the fact that we haven't had any snow yet kind of turns me off a little bit right now from having it.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely a beer I don't want to really have unless it's like 10 degrees out and snowy.
You come in and you have your winter warmer.
Yeah, it's after
Melts you like
after shoveling, for
snowman.
4 hours. Yeah.
Yep.
It's malty.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say it's too overpowering with either like the spices. Like it's not super nutmeggy or cinnamony or anything like that. It does have a dry fruit taste to it, but it's definitely not overpowering at all because that's something I definitely do not enjoy when I come to drink any sort of alcohol or anything in general. It's got a nice balance to it.
Yeah.
It's definitely not like an old Fezziwig, which Sam's just refuses to put out these days, but
yeah,
it's not bad. I'd say try it.
Yeah. Sure.
And
if you get it now, because of COVID, they have green bottles instead of their normal brown.
That makes it more festive.
It does. It kind of does. I like that. I don't know if they're going to stick with it, but it comes with like even a disclaimer.
I'm sure they won't, because if they had to put out a discllaimer like, we have to,
it comes with a disclaimer, and it's like, don't be alarmed.
There's somebody out there like, well, fucking, I can't drink this shit anymore.
I can't believe they didn't use their brown bottles. Yeah, no, but I like it for the winter pack at least. If they stuck with the green bottles for the winter pack, I think that's kind of cool. It kind of gives it just a little festive flair. A little flair to your festive holiday drinking.
Well, I'll definitely put it over like when they had, because they used to cram that 40-59 porter in their fucking holiday pack every year, and that was always such a waste because it was like the most generic of porters that you could ever have. Like meh. Because they would advertise it as like has like vanilla and caramel, and you couldn't taste any. It's like just tastes like barley, like porter malts in there.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, well, check out the Saranac Winter Pack because it's got some good stuff in there. It's got some solid different beers in there. It does have an IPA in there. It's the Permafrost IPA. It's pretty good. I would recommend that one as well. Although I think winter style IPAs, even though I am a sucker for them, are kind of pushing it. Like most of the time, you're not looking for a winter IPA. Even so, Sierra Nevada does a pretty good one with their Celebration IPA, but for the most part, I think winter IPAs are kind of weird. All right, so I think we're gonna move away from our beer talk. We're gonna get on with the talk about From Russia with Love. So I said
you don't have to hide that crack.
Cracking it open.
You just got done talking about a beer. Now there you go. Look at that.
Perfect. Great crack.
Now that we're done with our special beer, crack open a Jenny.
Yeah. The cheap stuff.
That can only have that nice crackling sound. And
that's right. So I said that I would probably let you do more of the talking on From Russia with Love because you are the bigger Bond fan. You are the bigger Sean Connery fan. Like the guy. I don't have a super a super nostalgic feeling about his body of work. So I'm going to let you...
Very sad that you say that.
I'm not saying that I don't like his body of work. I'm just saying that my experiences with it are limited.
You don't love The Rock?
I like The Rock.
Not Dwayne Johnson. the Michael Bay film, The Rock.
That's right. Yeah, no, I like The Rock. No, but I mean...
Which that film's like 3 hours long, so that would be,
It's just that my experiences with Connery's work is slim. So I'm going to let you kind of, I'm going to let you lead a little bit. So we haven't done this in a while where you actually lead a show. So what do you want to start with? What should we talk about?
So I'll kind of talk about where I come from when it comes to being a fan of the franchise. I've dragged you ever since 2006 to like every Bond film that's come out. Mm-hmm. From every single one of the Craig ones. So like many people who are millennial, GoldenEye was the first Bond film that I saw. I remember liking it a lot as a kid. Played the hell out of GoldenEye, just like everyone did. Because of that, watched the Brosnan films. Would have my parents order them on DirecTV, every single one that came out. Bought the games when I had my GameCube. I got Agent Under Fire and Nightfire. Played the hell out of them. And for those of you who remember, from like 2002 to like 2006, Spike, when it would come to Christmas and New Year's, would do like the 12 Days Bond. And every day they would play for 24 hours straight, like all of the Bond films, just at least for the first like 2 years. Like they also did like Thanksgiving ones too, like where they'd play it for like Thanksgiving, but mainly during Christmas they'd do like the 12 Merry Days of Bond, and they would play all the Bond films. After like 2 years, they would whittle that list down, to like just like a couple of the Brosnan, most of the Moores. Couple of the Connery, like, because on Her Majesty's Secret Service, they only played like twice, because that's like the only way I saw it for the first time, and like I remember seeing it like the first time and being like, this ain't any good, this is boring, and it took me until like college to rediscover and be like, this is fucking great. So that's where I come from, built in. And I also had a friend in school too who was a really big Bond fan. That's something we'd bond over, no pun intended there. So, that being said, being somebody who's been ingrained as a Bond fan for now, like 20 years, Connery's always been one of my favorite Bonds. Probably not my favorite Bond, but he is the quintessential James Bond. Mm-hmm. From the looks, his mannerisms, he got everything down really well. And, him and the formula that they built over those first, 5 films, enduring, classic. It's what people, when you think of James Bond, it's what you think of. As good as Daniel Craig's been, his Bond films, Casino Royale's good, Quantum of Solace, crap. Skyfall, good, Spectre, meh, But they don't really feel like Bond films overall because they've evolved into, something different. But every time you watch a Connery film, it feels like a Bond film. Mm. And coming off Dr. No, Dr. No's, really grounded, really gritty. It's got a couple campy moments and stuff. Like Dr. No himself is kind of campy and some of the elements are campy, but it's pretty grounded. This being the second film is they take that Cold War spy thriller idea and expand upon it into this great, very understated film on what the plot is. Because the plot is just, they're trying to get a Russian decoder.
Right. The Lecter.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, and they kind of don't go too much into it. Like, it's basically left as this: we're trying to get the Lecter. Russians want it. British Secret Service wants it.
Spectre's setting up.
Spectre wants it.
Blofeld and Spectre are setting up this plan because they're trying to get the Lecter for themselves.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't know, Spectre is the terrorist organization throughout the first couple of films, where it's headed by Ernst Stavro Blofeld. We don't get to see him until You Only Live Twice, but all you can see is him just petting his cat, being very menacing towards his subordinates. And that's where the whole, like, you know, making the agents inspectors, you know, assigning them a number, like number 2, number 5, you know. Because in Thunderball, we'd meet, you know, number 2, you know. But here you got Rosa Klebb, who's number 3, and Kronstein, who's number 5. But Kronstein, this, you know, legendary chess player, has set up this plan, who's also a member of Spectre, to entrap James Bond to get this Lecter for them, because the British want this decoding machine, have the Russians give them that decoding machine, and while also doing this, kill James Bond, because, like I said, there's still some continuity within these films, and they mentioned that he's responsible for killing Dr. No, who was a member of Spectre, one of Spectre's agents. So it's out of revenge. Yeah, and then antics ensue.
Right. And the thing that I find interesting about this movie is the fact that it lays out the entire plan for you, basically at the beginning of the film, with the whole Russian dynamic. We're going to get this Russian lady who really thinks she's working for Russia, so we're going to involve her, and then, you know, the British are going to know that it's a trap. But
they're making sure
James Bond.
They're making sure they're picking a young, naive Russian, you know, decoding,
very attractive,
you know, a decoding agent who's not going to be, you know, able to think about, like, oh, this is a, you know, what's going on, and obviously MI6 is going to know this is a trap, but, you know, the whole, like, the game's afoot, you know.
Right.
They're going to enjoy, like, well, we can try getting it, but also, you know, try springing this trap.
Yeah, it's interesting that that's all being set up, and we get all of that delivered as, like, exposition towards the beginning of the film. Blofeld and number 2 and number 3 and number 5 are giving it all to us. And then not only that, but after that all happens, and Bond goes to Istanbul to meet with his Turkish handler, basically, a guy that he's working with, Kayem, right? Kayem. He gets roped into another scheme that really doesn't have anything to do with the Russia element or the Lecter or anything at all. Kerem has his own problems with terrorists, basically, and
Bulgarians
and mines, because there are mines everywhere. In Turkey.
No, it's I was gonna say
Kerem.
Kerem Bey.
Kerem,
but he's essentially like the head of, like, Turkish intelligence, or at least Istanbul. So,
but what I find is that the film for like the first, you know, well, it's not the first, but like into about 45 minutes into it, is kind of get sidetracked on another mission for Bond that really doesn't have anything to do with the Lecter device. He's sort of helping out with a different scenario, and that kind of adds a layer of confusion to the movie, because for the most part, like I said, the beginning lays out the entire plot that Spectre has for Bond. And so if you were to go through the film and just go from point A to point B to point C, Bond gets the Lecter device from the Russian, then Spectre steps in to take it away, there would have been a kind of a really boring film, because it would have gone exactly the way that had been laid out by Spectre in their plotting. With the Turkish terrorism parts, you get more action, you get another scenario that kind of muddles the plotting that the film has just laid out for you. And I think that's kind of a nice conceit for the film, is that you know, Bond is getting roped into something else, and so you're not going directly from this Russian plot to the actual fulfillment of that mission. There's stuff in between that gets in the way. So I think that's kind of a nice device for the movie, because otherwise I think, you know, because the film tells us everything, I think that would have been too on the nose. You would have gotten, you know, there would be no surprises for you.
It's that nice Cold War layer, because it's the Soviets who have the Bulgarians working for them, who are, you know, pestering the Turkish, who are, you know, working with the Britain because they're, a NATO nation, so you got all that, Like I said, it's like I said, it's one of the reasons why today this would be a hard film to recommend to somebody new, because we're getting a lot further and further away from the Cold War and those kind of Cold War dynamics,
Not only that,
are going to be really lost on people.
The internationality of the film as well. The whole traveling to Turkey and Istanbul and Yugoslavia and stuff like that. That's kind of that type of thing is not really easy for the audience to follow now, as it might have been at the time. Do you think...
I do think setting it in Turkey, too, is great. Because it's very unique. It's out of all the places that Bond travels to over the years. I think it's the only time he's been in Turkey. Which, to me, it's just, adds another, nice layer to the film of being different and out there. Because later, he'll, constantly be in, Russia, Switzerland, Germany, Italy, etc. America.
Yeah, this one's a little different.
That Turkish touch, is nice. I really enjoy that.
Do you think that it's a detriment that the film has Spectre and Blofeld lay out the plot exactly how it happens? Because there really is there is not really a surprise later on, because there's no triple crossing that you would expect now.
Because like I said, it's a film of its time too. It has when you watch it, you can definitely tell it's a film of its time. Where a film like this, outside of a Hitchcockian film, would lay out everything for you right from the get-go. Mm-hmm. I can see if this were to be remade today, they would go Atomic Blonde and fucking she's a quadruple
triple cross, quadruple cross. Yeah. There's 7 factions working in this.
Yeah. And they would totally muddy the waters. So no, I'm fine with everyone being in on what the plan is. And then trying to watch Bond essentially figure out what the plan is. Because he and Karam know something's afoot.
Right.
But, what exactly, they're not quite sure of.
And obviously they're already suspicious of the Russian.
Yeah.
That's like a given for them. That's especially when she's caught climbing into bed in his Bond's hotel room for the first time. He's obviously suspicious, but at the same time, Bond is a man of opportunity. And so that opportunity being she's butt naked in bed, I'm going to take that opportunity. And that's pretty much what Bond does. I will say that From Russia with Love is one of the more womanizing Bond films that I've seen, even more than I think Goldfinger from this era.
He beats the hell out of Pussy Galore and Goldfinger.
He does, but in this...
I'd say even more so in this. He gets a few good slaps in this film, but there's points in Goldfinger where she's saying, don't touch me, you're hurting me, and he's, pressing himself even further on her until she, submits and is like, okay, fine,
I think this one is great because...
And the cute, the romantic music, oh, see,
she's into it. She needs to be reinforced a little bit. This one is funny because it has so many of those times where Bond, like I said, Bond is a man of opportunity, and he really is swayed by the nearest woman. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. He's like a dog with 17 bones around him. And you're just well, that bone looks good, but closest proximity, I'm over here now. I'm going to grab this bone. That's how Bond is in this movie.
But not only that, too, Club even frames it for Tatiana that, you're doing this for the state. Whatever he says that, he wants, you're going to do.
Exactly. And Tatiana is almost on a casting couch call when she meets with Club. She's take off your jacket. Wants to
do a turn.
Exactly.
You're very pretty.
Exactly. And
I couldn't tell from that peacock coat you were wearing,
Yeah, this movie, it does have a lot of that great womanizing that you expect from a 60s movie. That's for sure. Not only that, but so you have the slaps, the fainting, the hysteria of women. A mind goes off and the man's I don't know, she didn't stick around. She's obviously hysterical. It's great.
Makes Karam look like a badass, though.
By ignoring the advances of a nubile woman in his Study? Yes.
Yeah, and the mine goes off.
Basically
and Bond's like, what happened? He's like, yeah, limpet mine.
They're
You didn't
all
get to
around.
see. You didn't even get to see what kind of mine it was. Just it went off limpet mine. If I was at my desk, it would have killed me. But I was over here relaxing, and woman ran off hysterical. Yeah,
I do like when we have that scene where she's just like, Karam Ray, come to bed with me. He's just staring at a file just the whole time. He's like, be still, woman. Be still. It's great. It's great.
reading up on Bulgarian intelligence. God damn it.
Yeah, there's way more important things than your boobs hanging out on the bed right now. Okay?
Karen Bay is definitely my favorite character in this film, though.
I like Karen Bay a lot.
I think out of all, like, because Bond throughout the years constantly have like different like allies in films. Most notably Felix Leiter, which to Felix's detriment, in every fucking film they'd recast him. So there, you know,
So you never have
So there was like no
carryover.
continuity. So like. You know, I mean, he didn't show up in every film. So when he did show up, sometimes it'd be like, oh, Felix is pretty good in this and useful, like in Goldfinger. And other times, you know, it'd be like, what are you trying to do, Bond? Start World War III? Yeah. I can't, and just be fucking that'd be like from, pretty sure Diamonds Are Forever, but where Jimmy Dean's in it, but that's besides the point. But, yeah, there's no continuity. But Karen Bay, like, out of all, like, the Bond allies throughout the years, is definitely one of the best.
Yeah, Karen Bay is good. I definitely enjoy his delivery, his calm demeanor, and then just kind of like he just has like a very, peaceful way of dealing out whatever he's doing. So even when he's in the room with the Russian guard, he just comes in and he's basically smoking his kazoo. I like to call it a kazoo because I really have no idea what that yellow thing is that he.
It does look like kazoo, like
smokes.
He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna annoy you to death."
I don't know what it is, but it looks like it's like a yellow thing that almost is part like one of those cigarette holders like Cruella de Vil has.
No, because it's too thick.
It's not the same. It's not one of those, but it's similar. I don't know what it is exactly, but he's even with that prison guard. He's obviously there to, give him guff, but he's still got like a very calm, peaceful demeanor, and delivery is great. I think he's like kind of the like comic relief for this movie, even though the film itself is not really extreme. You say it's more serious. It's definitely got a grittier tone to it. But it's not super gritty still. It's still got sort of a mischievousness to it.
Oh, definitely. Like, because when, like, anytime there's an explosion in this film, it's definitely everyone's running around like, oh,
Right. And like you said, with the whole shootout sequence at the Turkish camp, there's just fucking action happening everywhere. Horses over here and guys up on, spaghetti Western style roofs over
and
here,
flipping around, running on fire. Yeah, it's,
there is a lot of like almost goofball antics to it. It's almost like slapstick in a way. It's not slapstick. It's not comedic. But
I think it comes off as again. It's like a product of its time, like the '60s. Like I would say, because then like Dr. No, like there's a goofy moment where when they're on Jamaica in Jamaica and they're trying to fucking infiltrate Dr. No's lair. There's a dragon running around. And I say that in air quotes, but it's actually a giant, like, mechanical robot controlled by Dr. No's agents, and it spits fire out, and it and like today, that looks, when you watch it, it's like totally fucking goofy and weird, but like I could see at the time, they're probably like, oh, this would be like scare the shit out of people,
Right, yeah. It's got, it definitely has that, like, almost like 60s Western, not even spaghetti Western, but 60s Western style shootout
like Bonanza.
Yeah, Bonanza sequences. But, I mean, I think that it works for it. And the film itself is, you can't really get, even with its length, it's almost 2 hours long, you can't really get bored with it because there's so much going on. You're at a Turkish camp with a shootout. You're on a train. You're on a boat. There's a mine going off. You've got a lot of stuff going on. The film moves through different set pieces a lot. Even though those set pieces are often green screen, or like basically like projector items that are, they're working on green screens and sets and stuff like that. But it still has a lot of elements to it that work pretty well that helps carry the film forward with momentum. It just keeps going on, and you've got different...
You don't even realize that Bond's not in it for like the first 25 minutes.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah,
because they're setting up all that exposition of Spectre, Tatiana and the Russians, until they finally get to MI6 in London with, Bond showing up.
Right, you've got that whole sequence with Grant at the beginning, hunting down a James Bond lookalike with the mask
Which
on.
That's also one of the most understated, opening sequences for the Bond franchise. Because, again, they haven't exactly found the formula yet to how all that's going to be, So, I think now the idea of just Bond running around on this premise, and we're like, oh, what's Bond doing, and then he gets killed by Grant. And then you see, it's this training session.
Yeah.
Because it ends, really quick. And then goes into the the title cards and the title sequence. It's very, it is, by today's standards, very understated on how that goes.
Right.
And I do think good, because it shows how efficient a killer Red Grant is. But it's not like the big spectacle that you would see in Die Another Day that's 10 minutes fucking long of the hovercrafts and Bond in North Korea and all this other bullshit happening and him finally getting captured. And...
Right, and it actually doesn't contain Bond at all.
Yeah.
You think it has Bond, but it's really not. So you're not even starting out with James Bond at all. It's kind of like a nice reversal of what they would normally do with an intro like that. Yeah, what do you think about Robert Shaw's Red Grant?
He's definitely one of the best Bond henchmen.
He's very understated as well.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like I said, as much as great as this film is, it would not be something to show somebody right off the bat, because there's a lot of, I think, unless you're a fan of the genre or the the Bond franchise to begin with, a lot of nuance that people aren't probably going to gravitate to. Robert Shaw is menacing in this because he's built like a brick shit house.
And he's just kind of always there.
A shadowy figure in the background.
With his gloves on, too. Don't forget the gloves. He's always got those. He's always pulling on the gloves.
They're
the black murdering gloves.
Yeah, the ones that Trump was just recently found OJ's gloves,
Exactly.
But, just stalking and lingering and...
I even like that sequence during the shootout where he kills somebody that's going to
kill Bond.
Yeah. It's kind of like that scene.
He's his little guardian angel.
Exactly. Yes, it's a nice moment there where, again, you kind of get that feeling because he's able to do that and be seeing omnisciently. You fear for Bond because he was there to protect him, and then he could have easily ended him as well.
Yeah,
in that scenario.
Same thing too when Bond and Tatiana are escaping to the Orient Express, to get out of Istanbul. He's already on the train. He's slowly stalking them on the train, and
you can see that the plot is working out exactly as they want it to. So it's interesting. I think that Robert Shaw is really good, and you're right. He's unrecognizable in this movie from Jaws.
If you just know him from Jaws, you
totally unrecognizable. He has the bleach blonde hair, very very kempt look, and massive.
I know Kleb goes and punches him with brass knuckles.
Brass knuckles,
and he doesn't budge or anything. She's like, yeah, he's fit enough.
Yeah, right.
Send him to Istanbul. Which, speaking of Robert Shaw as, Red Grant, what do you think of that fight sequence between him and Bond on the Orient Express?
I thought it was pretty good. Obviously, that's been set up immediately. I think where it's going, especially with having Q do that whole, tutorial of how to open a briefcase and things like that. Where this is going. I think that it works well in the film regardless. Obviously, again, this is a different time. So now when you think of Bond, you think of very technologically savvy gadgets. That's not really what this film had. From Russia with Love doesn't have anything extremely outrageous. It's more like press a button, you get a knife that pops out of your briefcase.
And that's something that I love too, though. Again, that's where I go back to Grounded. The whole magnetized watch, or
Right.
doing like this ridiculous bullshit, like, you know,
Yeah.
it's like remote controlled car, like in Tomorrow Never Dies, you know, it's all like, again, like something that you would expect like a spy during that time period to have. Like, here's a briefcase, here's some gold sovereigns, like in case you like need some money, it's stored here, and like a knife stored here, and you know,
Yeah, it's a good moment. And I think like even the scenario that really comes to fruition, the one that turns the tables, where you open the briefcase and gunpowder explodes, that is even, it makes sense realistically, and it's not something like super out of the ordinary that would be like crazy for anybody to actually have. It makes sense. You could potentially have that happen. You just have a magnet attached and you open it a certain way and it explodes. All of those things really make it grounded, and I think it works really well instead of having something absolutely ridiculous. And it still relies on Bond still having the training and the fortitude to overcome a threat, whereas some other Q things in later films are really like, they're the reason why Bond survives. He's relying on gadgets. In this film, he's relying on sheer, strength, training, his wiles.
Because what you see from that scene too, which again, that fight sequence is great, because though it comes off as like, very kind of at times a little stiff, not in like, not just like how it's supposed to look and feel, but also like because it's the 60s, so there's only so much at the time choreographing they could do. Mm-hmm. But that whole fight sequence is very visceral and tense because it's in this very claustrophobic train car, room, and they're just essentially, it's just a tussle, fight for their life, and you get to see the difference in between their characters, because you're right, like, so from what we know and understand of Bond, he's called by Spectre, their MI6's best agent, and, experienced, well-trained, well-thought out. You have to, it's going to be very hard to beat him and outthink him. Grant, though, built like a brick shithouse and, incredibly smart and able to adapt. It's briefly mentioned, but he's also, a sociopath who they took, got out of jail. So he's going.
They
so
do mention that. Like,
so he's going to.
dossier.
Yeah. So he's going. As we see, he wants to take pleasure and kill Bond slowly, when he's got him dead to rights, and instead of just plugging him and being done and moving on, he's got to enjoy, his work.
Yep.
So again, that's something that's very simple, and that whole dossier bit. If like you weren't paying attention, something like you'd be like, well, why is he sitting here? Gun in hand, got Bond dead to rights and not killing him.
Right. Yeah. It gives you an actual reason why the villain is, because that's always been a like kind of a parody now later on.
Like in
the villain has a ridiculous like dialogue and continually like, why aren't you killing him? Well, I want to torture him as much as possible. This one actually has the storyline element to make that, make sense. Why he's not, because he is a sociopath, and that's the reason why he's keeping Bond alive, is because he wants to torture him. So it does make sense, and I think that sequence is really good. The other sequence that I think is interesting is there's the helicopter sequence where it keeps swooping down on Bond as he's running away. Looks a lot like North by Northwest, very clearly.
I'm pretty sure, they ripped that.
Very clearly taken from them. But what I love too is when the helicopter again is back and they're driving the flower truck, and this guy in the helicopter just keeps pulling grenades.
Got a box of grenades.
He just keeps pulling them out. He's like, you know what? No problem. I got like 3-4 more. It's great. It's an awesome moment. But yeah, that's like I was saying though. The film has a lot of great different set pieces. You're on a train. You've got a chase sequence in a car. You've got helicopter moments. You're on boats. There's a whole like setup that explains why are in video games. There's just gasoline cans laying around in water stages.
That's also one of the coolest parts too, though. Like when they're on the boat and he kicks the fuel gas drums off, and after they've been shot, he takes the flare gun and shoots. Yeah. That's that's really cool.
It's Exactly. It's like recognizable as like when you're playing video games, you're like, why are there all these little
The best part about that though is the Spectre boats are going out there and they have green flags on one,
Spectre green, Spectre
red flags on the other. Like, you're going too fast, Spectre.
They had to like coordinate and make sure that everybody had their code names: Spectre green, Spectre red. I wonder how much time was spent like in the background before they went out. They're like, "All right, you guys are on Spectre. You're on green. You got your green flag. You got it."
Well, because of how how Spectre works, they'd definitely be sitting there like
they're plotting that right out.
What an awful terrorist organization too. You're in a plane or you're in a boat, and the best you can do for your fucking associates trying to kill these people is hand them MP40s. You're not going to hand them an assault rifle like an AK, like something that's got a little bit more oomph to it that's meant for like long distance fire. You're expecting a guy from a fucking helicopter, or from a fucking helicopter to sit there like, all right, plug him with his submachine gun. Maybe that's why they went with the box of grenades. It's like, dude, if you fire that thing from up here, it ain't gonna do anything.
Box of grenades. It's so funny. It's like infinite grenades this guy has.
I don't know why too, but like those late those 50s, like early 60s helicopters.
Yeah,
I just love how they look. Like, cause they're just like so like
they're like skeletons of.
I know. It's like would you want to fly in that? Like,
looks a little dangerous and like fall out.
I will say too, like going back to the whole like grounded element of the gadgets, the whole having like a compact one-shot sniper rifle, the 25 caliber AR-7, like that's really cool, and that's used the couple of times it's used. Again, it's like smartly used in the situations that they use, like. That makes sense, like what they would do. It's not like, hold on, let me fucking assemble this Gatling gun, and
Yeah. Anything else that we didn't talk about that you can think of?
What do you think? What do you think of Rosa Klebb? Technically, she's the main villain in this film.
She's not in it too much. I think that Grant overshadows her quite a bit. She does come up again towards the end. You actually kind of forget about her because throughout most of it, she's not in there again. Her and
Kronstein, they kind of take a back seat.
Well, and Kronstein is really kind of not featured much at all. You get that one sequence with him playing chess and stuff. But other than that, like he's kind of wasted in this movie. I feel
he's got some great. I just love the part though of like him, like as they're sitting in front of Blofeld and he's explaining his plan, and you're like, why would they fall for this? And he grabs his cigarette out of his nice case and he like gives it that tap to pack it in, and he's like, well, the British love they love a trap. They love it. They see it as a challenge.
Yeah.
It's just like oh, this guy's like such an asshole. Like
I like it when he wins the chess game.
It's great.
Somebody tries to go shake his hand and he just fucking blows it off. Like, nah, never mind. No. It's like this was like beneath me, this chess game. I think that at least she comes back because I feel like if you think about anime, a lot of times anime has that really good element of here's this big bad guy, and then there are like six smaller bad guys.
The sub bosses on the tower.
And then there are 4 people working under this one guy that we got to beat. And there's that kind of like almost video game element of, we beat this guy, now we got to go on to this guy. And that really keeps you watching. So if you're watching through like 60 episodes of an anime that has that sort of structure of like, we beat this little bad guy, now we got to go beat the bigger bad guy, now we got to go beat the bigger bad guy, that works really well. I don't feel like that's the case in this movie where Klebb feels like the bigger bad guy over Grant. Right? It's like, her returning at the end of the film as the maid is nice to wrap things around, but I don't think she feels like a formidable opponent like Grant did. Grant feels more of the big bad villain.
No, I mean, I can see that. I do think I do like the end fight sequence with her and Bond of her
trying to kick.
Like, again, like the whole shoe knife, like that, yes. Like that's cool because that's like an actual. That was an action, like an actual thing, instead of like, oh, here's this like fucking MacGuffin type thing, I think if they had her get the one up on Bond to begin with, instead of her just being like, Tatiana, help me, and then she's like, of course I'm helping James. By that point, that I think they could have that could have made the fight more interesting to kind of level it out. But I still think it's cool, because at this point, especially now that we've seen Blofeld, so it's at the end of the day, they're not overall Klebb and Grant. They're not Kronstein. They're not the big villains in this to begin with. So
right.
I will say though, I really like the whole idea of Spectre Island. They got this whole fucking training facility. Random island, don't know where it is. And then that's where you get that nice, training montage as she's walking down with the guy with Grant's dossier, and they're going over it. You see him training flamethrowers and firing, and they're throwing knives and fighting and shit. And they're she's nothing beats real experience like that. And they're that's right, that's why we use live rounds, As they're all running and trying to dodge, bullet. That's that's really cool. I like that. I would say the only problem, the only really big issue I have is because when Bond is confronted with Grant and trying to figure out what's going on, he originally thinks, "Oh, this is a SMERSH operation. This is just Russian counterintelligence. There's not even thinking about Spectre." And he's like, "You work for SMERSH." And he's like, "No, I don't." And he's like, "What?" And he's like, "I'm hired by Spectre." Grant says he was hired by Spectre and Klebb. And that Klebb, hired him. And he's like, "But she's the leader of SMERSH." And he's like, "Not anymore." And Bond's like, "Oh, she's not?" Because earlier in the film, Klebb tells when they're breaking down the whole plot of the film, she says that she's been, she defected from SMERSH. Yeah. She's defected from the Soviet Union. Nobody knows except, top, members in the Soviet government. My question is, though, how the hell does MI6 not know anything about it?
Right.
They may not know, but, you would think if you knew who the hell the leader of, the top Soviet counterintelligence was, if all of a sudden, there's... Yeah. You haven't seen this person in a while, you're not, thinking, well... Yeah,
it almost makes them seem like, they're not doing their due diligence with intelligence.
Yeah.
But
I think it would have been cooler to, a cooler idea if they, kind of, made it... when you talked about, the whole, they set the whole plot up, I think if they let the whole film go on with MI6 thinking it was a SMERSH operation, and then Tatiana just defected at the end instead of, being a patsy, them knowing she's a patsy, just knowing that she defected. I think that'd be cool because that'd set up future down the road, higher stakes for Bond when it comes to figuring out Spectre. Because by the time you get to Thunderball, MI6, alright, is, trying to crack, and take down Spectre. That could have been a lot. Like I said, there's not really any continuity throughout the film, so as, it could, as a story, been more interesting, to have that build up to them, finding out more about Spectre. Because in Dr. No, they know what Spectre is because of Dr. No. Mm-hmm. But they don't know too much about it. But if they kept going on thinking some of these operations were just Soviet counterintelligence instead of actually Spectre, until you get to the end game, that, would have been cool. But that's, neither here nor there.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we've got a rate from Russia with Love on a scale of, on a scale of 0 to 10.
Red Chiantis?
Red Chianti. There you go. Red Chianti. I was going to say something about the women fighting over their man, but yes, we can do Red Chiantis. Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't say anything about that. So what did you think of that?
That's hilarious.
The whole Red Grant, pretending to be Agent Nash on the Orient Express, and Robert Shaw's doing that god awful British accent, and
they order the sole,
grilled sole,
and he gets a red Chianti.
He's like, I'll have the Chianti. What? No, wait, red.
Yeah, the whole scenario is kind of interesting because
what a gourmand Bond is to be like, I should have known red Chianti.
Yeah, I wonder, what made Grant order red Chianti for one thing. Maybe just because he's a sociopath. He doesn't follow normal,
he's the inspiration for Hannibal Lecter, yeah.
High couture eating establishments. But yeah, it's a funny moment. And even, like, I do love Connery's reaction to that when he orders the red Chianti. He's like, kind of like, he raises his eyebrows. Like, You know what, though? I'm all about, if you like a red wine with fish, fucking order a red wine with fish. Who cares? Stop being a snob about wine. You think it pairs better or something.
Bond is like, as you'll learn throughout the film, he's a total, like, what do you call a snooty wine person?
I don't know. I would call him like a vino, like a, I don't know.
I almost want to say,
would be the person.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, like, yeah, he is like, he's like constantly like with the champagnes and shit, like,
yeah,
pairing and.
Well, I'm absolutely all for, if you want to pair whatever with whatever, you go for it.
Because he gives Crispin Glover's pappy and Diamonds Are Forever at the end, because he's Crispin Glover's father is one of the gay henchmen at the end. That Bond like puts a little rag up his butt. And he gets all excited, but like, he can't properly match the right champagne to go with this meal, and he calls him out on it. You'll have to watch it, but I mean, he's like, he is a total gourmand, like, but also too, who's ordering grilled sole on a train?
I don't know. Grilled sole. He orders for Tatiana as well. It's like, she'll have that too.
No, Grant does.
No, it doesn't. No, Bond does.
I don't know. I think no, because I think
no, Bond does. He says she'll have one too, and then Grant says, "You know what? I'll take that as well.
Make it three."
Yeah. So he orders for himself. Bond orders for.
I wonder
Tatiana.
what kind of accoutrements come with it. Is it like asparagus?
I would guess like a green bean or asparagus. I don't know. But yeah, I'm all for it. If you want to have red wine with fish, you go for it. You go for it. Be open about it. So yeah, we'll do that. We'll do out of 10 red Chiantis. What would you give From Russia with Love?
I give it a 9 out of 10. Great film. I love it. I really do. It's like, to me, it's like the quintessential like Cold War thriller. Connery's great. He's got great one-liners throughout this film. Not a lot, thank God, because that becomes a very bad point, like, down the line when you get to, like, the more Bond films and every other line's a fucking one-liner.
Right, he's got a couple, but not.
But he's great in this film. You can tell he's, like, because down the line, like, when you get to, like You Only Live Twice, he's, like, bored as fuck. You could tell by the time he's in Japan, he's like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. But, like, he's still, and he looks great. He's in great shape. He's still charismatic. He's menacing too. I think the plot is great. It's got nice layers to it. It's not the most overly complicated, but it's got great. It does have depth to it. I think the whole Istanbul location is great. Adding Kerem Bey, great. I think Kleb and Kronstein, they're okay. They're not the greatest like Bond villains, but they do for what the film is. I think, Robert Shaw's Red Grant makes up for it in his menacingness. I don't know her name off the top of my head, but the girl who plays Tatiana, she does a very good job.
Daniela Bianchi.
She's not the best Bond girl by any means, but she's very pretty. I'd say upper echelon for Bond
very,
girls.
Naive Bond girl. In terms of what would come next, which you have like double-crossing Bond girls and, stuff like that. Very naive, almost, not really, she's not a threat for one thing. I mean, she's
She's supposed to be.
But she doesn't really seem...
But, I mean, she's more so, because, like, Ursula Andress and Dr. No is fucking useless. She's quintessentially Barbara, Night of the Living Dead, just like, oh, what's going on? Throughout, the whole...
I just found it interesting that she was, like, very, very, very naive.
Yeah.
And to the point where she's literally saying, I fall in love with you. And Bond's like, you know what? That's fine.
Really don't get, like, a really strong-willed Bond girl until On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Diana Rigg. That's, like, the first one that you get, like, the most, like, complex and fleshed out one for what that story has in store. That's why. But I think, she is one of, like, I'd say upper tier, because I think she's very good, very attractive. She plays the role well. Like I said, I like the whole...
booty?
Love the whole, like the whole gypsy fight scene's really cool. Probably not tasteful for today, like culturally sensitive. But,
they literally are hissing like cats.
Yeah, but I mean, it's, nice, fun little shoot scene and stuff. The whole Orient Express bit is really nice. It's really cool.
Yeah, like that poor room servant. He's got to come around and keeps finding dead bodies.
Yeah, just like, fucking room. Yeah.
There's a fucking room with dead bodies in here.
But it's definitely, like I said, it's tied for first for my all-time favorite Bond film. It's the quintessential grounded Bond film. And I understand not a lot of people like that. It's not something for everybody. That's why... Even though most people consider this the best Bond film, if I were to usher somebody into watching this film, getting into the Bond franchise, this would not be what I would start with. It's like the same thing with Gundam. I love Zeta Gundam. I love the original Gundam. I am not going to tell somebody who's like new to Gundam to watch the original Gundam, because you're probably not going to like it without some context.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I would give the film an 8.5 out of 10. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was really good. I think, there's just a couple of moments of pacing that are a little slower. On the train, sometimes it kind of gets bogged down a little bit, and just the romance between Tatiana and Bond. Other than that,
you didn't like the whole, like, when they're back at MI6 listening to the tape, and she's like, "Make love to me, James."
No, that's great.
As he's trying to get like. What's the Lecter like? Oh, it's got. Will you make love to me in England?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I don't mind those sequences, but the one on the train where there's sort of like that romance of blossoming and she's in love, and I thought it was a little bit too long for the sequence. But other than that, it's very good, and like I said, it moves through so many different set pieces: trains, planes,
automobiles.
Yeah, automobiles. All of those things are in this film to some degree, and I think that's really nice to have. I do think that I don't know what's better, but I am questioning whether they should have laid out the entire plot from Spectre at the beginning. It does set an interesting tone for the film, as we know as the audience what Bond does not. So there's that bit of, like irony there, but at the same time, I'm not sure how would it have been if they did not set that out for us and we did not know about the double crossing and things like that. What would have happened? Would that have been more interesting? I just question that. I don't know.
Again, I think that comes from like a privileged state of like films and TV today. Because again, that's like the same time period, like the 60s and 70s. You're watching a movie trailer, you saw the movie.
Right.
You see the trailer to the film. They spelt like, they were in love.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just questioning. I'm not sure. I don't know if it would have been better off or not, but I do find it interesting that it lays out the whole groundwork for the movie even before we see it. So there's no chance of surprise, or there's no chance of double crossing. I think even so, it has enough elements to it that it makes it, interesting regardless. And you have Grant, who's an interesting villain, who's not, again, he's kind of on the outskirts of the film. He's not really present all the time. It's not like we're constantly checking in with Grant. There's just a few moments here and there where we see him, but that presence is enough to keep him as a villain. So I think that's all those things work really well, very interesting. The film itself is very strong, and I think that the action sequences are good. The film has a lot of good spy work to it, and overall, very strong for a Bond film, especially because it is more grounded. It's not, extremely tongue in cheek or anything like that. It's not almost becoming a parody of itself. It's definitely more serious and realistic in its representation of how Bond works. So,
one thing we forgot to mention: what do you think of the whole aspect of them planning on killing Bond, killing the girl, saying he killed her? And they have this film of them fucking, and scandalous,
It's great, yeah. It's
extra, out of marriage sex,
The film is funny because I don't think many people would find it that.
Well, today, no, but even
but even then, I don't think and
in
no
the
one
early
in MI6 would have been like, what? Bond having sex with another woman on his mission? I can't believe it.
I know,
they
but,
wouldn't.
But Britain, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's funny that, it's such a scandal, but
I don't think in the Soviet Union it would either, because I think they had different views on sex before marriage. But,
I like
but it's just funny, the idea of look at this, film that we did. We saw you two, in the sheets. Haha,
I like to think that at the end, Bond was looking at the film and admiring his form. That's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a good shot.
That's also the good shot is
throwing it
the green screen and just his arm just waving around.
Looks like the Grinch or something.
Just waving around and then hucking the film into the water.
Yeah, it's a good ending shot.
That's not the best part of Spectre's plan. That's
that was like if we get that far, this is what we're going to do. Yeah, they didn't.
I'm surprised Blofeld's like, really? He fucks everybody.
Right.
They didn't. He's constantly sexually harassing, Moneypenny.
They didn't think the ending of that out too far. I think they were just surprised to be able to get that far. All right, so that ends our From Russia with Love discussion. We are back in 2 weeks with our Thanksgiving special that we haven't decided yet.
You got mail.
I think it might be Rambo. First Blood. Even though it's not really a Thanksgiving movie. I still kind of want to do it.
Have you seen First Blood?
Yeah.
Don't call it Rambo First Blood. That's not the name of the film.
Well, I said I kind of
the name of the
Rambo.
film. The name of the film is First Blood.
Then I corrected and I said First Blood.
Second Rambo film is called Rambo
First
Blood 2. And then
I want to.
Are we gonna do a Brian Dennehy month? Is that why we're doing it?
The other one that we could do that I also would want to do at some point is Blood Rage, which literally is a horror Thanksgiving movie to some extent. So I haven't decided yet, but either one of those I'm interested
Well, gee,
in.
it being Veterans Day, maybe we should have done First Blood.
Right. Yeah. So I'm torn. We haven't decided yet, but it might be one of those two. I don't know.
I wouldn't mind doing First Blood.
Yeah, it's fun. It's barely Thanksgiving though. That's the only problem. But still, it kind of falls into it. So.
Well, again, there's not a lot of Thanksgiving.
We got to do First Blood at some point, right? Why not make it Thanksgiving?
Soldier just wanted some cranberry sauce.
All right, so we will be back in 2 weeks for our Thanksgiving.
What
episode.
A conflict, too, by the way. How would the public deal with that film now? What do you mean the police are harassing a soldier? Like, who would people now vote?
Blue Lives Matter, man.
Like root for in that situation?
Right.
I love our troops.
I love the troops.
But Blue Lives.
I love the boys in blue.
Just the confliction that would go on.
That's right. We'll have to talk about that if we cover it. Who would win? The boys in blue or the military? I have to say, I think it would be the military. I think they would side with the military guy.
I don't know. I think
we are more than happy to let our veterans, rot without housing. So, I don't know. Thanks for serving. Hope you're doing well. I actually don't have a house. Oh, that's fine. What's tomorrow? Oh, it's not Veterans Day. Okay. So, Yeah. I have mental illness now. Oh, really? Fuck universal healthcare. It's not for everyone. All right, so we will be back in 2 weeks for our Thanksgiving episode. Thanks for listening.
Let's do, you know what, we'll do First Blood.
We'll do First Blood. It sounds like we're settled.
It's decided now.
That's right. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, whatever you listen to a podcast on, we're on it. So subscribe to us, leave a nice review. It really helps us out. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/bloodandblackrum. We're on Twitter at bloodandblackrum. We have an email address at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. You can write to us, let us know what you want us to cover for films in the future. And we also have a Patreon page at patreon.com/bloodandblackrumpodcast. If you feel like donating to us and helping us keep the show running, keep the lights on, we appreciate anything that you can give to us. That's, again, patreon.com/bloodandblackrumpodcast. That's a monthly fee. So whatever you donate, just remember it comes out monthly. So it's not one time. If you want to do it one time, you can hit us up on PayPal as well. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you come back again for our Thanksgiving episode, which we have decided is First Blood in 2 weeks. And until then, have a good time.
Take care.